Welcome to Mountain Real Estate. It is June of 2026, and I have an exciting tool to share with you today. We've talked a lot about short-term rentals on this podcast over the years. 2022 was where a lot of regulations were changing, and then things have kind of settled in. We've seen waitlists open and close and be long and be short. And we've had a lot of clients over the past few years that are interested in short-term renting, but just are having a hard time understanding the landscape, which is understandable because there's 7 jurisdictions and the town or the unincorporated county. So what we found is that we created a guide previously. It was 18 pages to try to simplify the messaging because each jurisdiction had their own rules, and then the county had underlying rules. And when you look at a map, it was hard to tell whether you're in the jurisdiction of the town of Frisco or the town of Breckenridge or the town of Keystone, or whether you're in the county. So we have been wanting a single place to look. We created our 18-page guide, but it was a bunch of maps that are all independent because all the sources of this information come from different places. With the help of my buddy Claude, I have created a single map where you can find a lot of short-term rental information based on the parcel. So what I'm going to share today is what that map is and where it lives and how you can use it. It has been a long time coming. We really have been trying to simplify this for people, and it was just too hard to simplify. But we find that this map is a way to get people to the answers to their questions quickly, and to answer a lot of different questions. So I'm going to also just have a few caveats that the map covers all of the jurisdictional information. It does not have any HOA overlays. So there are a few areas where the HOAs dictate the short-term rental regulations more than the jurisdiction. So that's a little caveat with this, but this will get you 90% of the way there, which is hopefully going to be helpful. So I'm going to open up the map. I'm going to share this and hopefully it works. And my face is going to be up here, and that might be really weird. So apologies for that. All right. So here we have our short-term rental map. So what you are seeing on the screen right now is that I'm going to zoom back up. There are 4 different basins that unincorporated Summit County operates in. So we have the lower blue, upper blue, and then we have the 10-mile basin, which covers Copper and Frisco, and then we have the Snake River Basin, which covers Dillon and Keystone. And so those high-level basins show you the broader county. And so anything outside of these local municipalities that we're going to look at would be covered by the county. When we zoom in a little, and we look at all of the municipalities, so we have Silverthorne, which looks very colorful because within Silverthorne, there's 3 different zones that dictate how many licenses are allowed. Within Silverthorne, you can see this pink area is a lot of workforce housing, and there are no short-term rental licenses allowed. So if I click in here, I'll get a pop-up that says it's Silverthorne Area 3 and STRs are not allowed. If I go over here in the Willowbrook neighborhood and click on a parcel, I'll see it's Area 1 in Silverthorne, and there's a 10% cap. Right now, there's licenses available in that 10% cap. Our hope is to keep this updated. Right now, the date says May 2026. We'll update it every quarter or so just to stay on top of the wait lists if they're changing. We also have Area 2 within Silverthorne, where there's been a lot of new construction of townhomes. Those have a 50% cap, so a little bit higher cap. But right now, licenses are available there. As I zoom out, so that is the lower blue. We also have the Summit Sky Ranch area, which does allow short-term rentals. It's in that area too. I'm going to zoom out and go towards the Snake River Basin. So within the Snake River Basin if you've been to Summit County, you've probably driven through this intersection, exit 205 near Silverthorne and Dillon. As you move east toward the lake is town of Dillon, and short-term rentals are allowed here. One thing to note is they have increased the taxes on short-term rentals there, so it is still doable, but just something to factor in as it has the higher tax rate in the county. But if you cross over on this side, on the north side of Dillon, this is actually unincorporated Summit County. So if I click in here, and I want to look for a parcel, this is 10-mile or Snake River Basin, unincorporated Summit County. It's over the wait list. What we've put in here is how many are issued and how many are on the wait list. So the cap was 130, 137 have been issued. So there's 7 over the wait list and there's 21 people on the wait list. This is one of the smaller areas in the county. So it might be reasonable to get on the wait list. We just don't know how long it's going to take. As we look into the town of Dillon, we say STRs are allowed and there's no cap. This includes the area of Corinthian Hill, which is up off of Highway 6 toward Keystone. All right, so now I'm going to zoom back out and go towards Keystone. One of the things that I found very helpful is downloading these boundaries. You could actually see what is town of Keystone and what is unincorporated Summit County. So for example, this area is Summit Cove in here. That's unincorporated Summit County. There's a wait list for those short-term rental licenses. It's the same wait list as the Snake River Basin that we talked about in Dillon. As we look at Keystone, if we click on Keystone, currently they're unlimited. Keystone has been transitioning into their own town management. They were incorporated in 2024. And so time will tell if anything changes, but right now they have unlimited licenses. Something to note is that this area of Keystone Ranch has some HOA overlays which don't allow short-term rentals. So that's one area to be cognizant where even though the county rules and the Keystone rules say that licenses are allowed, HOAs will override. All right. Then we have Montezuma up here in the Snake River Basin as well. As we come down, we're going to go to the 10-mile basin. So if we're looking down here in Frisco, there's a couple different boundaries. So this green boundary is the town of Frisco. So if you're looking at a property right here, you're actually in the 10-mile basin of unincorporated Summit County. The cap is 20, 24 have been issued. They have not even created a wait list yet for this basin. As we move right behind those parcels, as I zoom in and click on the right parcel, you can click in here and you're in town of Frisco. Right now, the cap is about 900 licenses and the wait list is about 9 to 12 months, depending on our season and how fast things are turning over. So in town of Frisco, we have said you can likely get a license based on the last few years. It might just take some time. So we've had people do seasonal rentals or find things off market, kind of help bridge that gap until a short-term rental license is available. But this is where it's important to be looking. If you're in the county area, even though it feels like the town of Frisco, there is no wait list for licenses yet. But if you go in the county area and you happen to be in Copper Mountain, which is still unincorporated Summit County, it's a resort zone, not a neighborhood zone. So you can get a license. So something to keep in mind within unincorporated Summit County, Copper Mountain, and there's some areas in Breckenridge, which do have no short-term rental caps. So you can get a short-term rental license in Copper. So that's the 10-mile basin. And now we're going to go down to Breckenridge and Blue River. We're going to start with Blue River, which is this kind of blue boundary down here. Something that is interesting, Blue River is their own town. I'm recording this in June, and there's been a lot of media coverage about Blue River lately and short-term rental licenses. If we look on here, it says town of Blue River, STRs allowed, but as of lately, the news is that the town of Blue River has been overwhelmed with enforcement issues. And so they have stopped issuing new licenses for 2026. I think overall there's uproar because that's a very abrupt change for people in the middle of purchasing or people thinking about purchasing in Blue River. And there was no kind of ramp up or ramp down. So time will tell how this plays out. As of right now, the latest information we have is that Blue River is no longer issuing licenses in 2026. Everything on their website a week ago said short-term rentals are allowed in Blue River. So that one is a little bit up in the air. All of these other areas, as you look outside the town of Breckenridge boundaries, the Upper Blue Basin, unincorporated Summit County. The cap is 590. They've issued 563. The wait list is 91. So this is an area where we've seen a lot of people want to short-term rent. You're near a ski resort. And the boundaries have been a little bit tricky. So right across the street, one could have a short-term rental, and on the other side of the street, one could not. And we did see it affect our pricing. So even if you don't want to short-term rent, it's important to understand the ability to short-term rent because it does affect resale value and purchase prices. So outside of the town of Breckenridge, unincorporated Summit County has a long wait list. Our estimation is that it will take many years, up to 10 years, to get through that wait list. Doesn't mean I wouldn't put my property on the wait list. It just means it might take some time. As I zoom into the town of Breckenridge, we see several different areas and different colors. So as we look at this orange area, it's zone 3, which is currently capped and has a wait list. So this is a lot of our workforce housing, but it's also a lot of the neighborhood areas near Main Street where there were historically a lot of rentals. So some people, even if they've had a rental over the years because they were grandfathered in, that does not transfer when somebody purchases a home. So there is no transferability unless it's within the family or an LLC. There's some minor loopholes, but they're pretty narrow. So something to think about if you're in the zone 3 area. Again, there's a wait list, but we don't see that one moving very quickly. And that's a town of Breckenridge wait list. And then when we go into this red area, this is zone 2. Again, this is also capped. It's very close to Main Street. There is a wait list in zone 2 as well. This is another one where the cap is 130 licenses. It's a smaller area, but still, we're not seeing a lot of movement there. When we come over here, we've got some green areas and some blue areas. The green areas are the resort zone. So these are unincorporated Summit County areas these are town of Breckenridge areas that are resorts. So they will always allow short-term rentals. How they qualified this map, I'm not real sure. I'm sure there was a lot of strategy into it, but it's not super intuitive if you're just looking at it from afar. On the ground, it makes a little bit more sense. So the green is Breckenridge Resort Zone, always able to get a short-term rental license. The blue is Zone 1 Breckenridge. Right now, you can get a short-term rental license. The cap is 1,680 licenses. So there's quite a few licenses. There's a lot of inventory in this area. As you can see, we can switch in this area where you go from zone 1, where you can get a license, to zone 3, where you cannot get a license, over to the resort overlay zone. Now, this is Summit County unincorporated area. So this specific area is a resort zone, resort overlay within unincorporated Summit County. So you can get a license here. It's just licensed through a different jurisdiction. So whereas this one licenses through Summit County, these other two go through town of Breckenridge. So within 3 properties that touch, there's 3 different zones. This is why we created this map. It's not intuitive to actually figure it out. You can also search for an address and see. It will take you there and it will tell you what the jurisdiction is and what is happening. So we hope that this is helpful for all of you. Where you can find this is on the amynakos.com website /short-term rentals. So we hope that this is helpful if you're wondering about short-term rentals or thinking about it. We are always a resource for you and happy to talk through it with you, but we hope that this is helpful. We also have some information on the side where you can look at the areas and the licenses just to really understand not all caps or wait lists are the same. So this gives you a lot broader information, but it's geospatially created so that you can look in the areas that you're interested in. This was a lot of effort from Claude because all of this information lives in 8 different places, some in the county, some in the towns, and it's not straightforward. So this is something that we've had a challenge when working with new buyers that are like, I want a short-term rent, but I like this house. And we have to say, well, you can do 30 days or more. You can always do 30 days or more at any of these properties. So that's one strategy. Or you can also do get on the wait list in many of these areas and just kind of change your strategy over time. Short-term rentals are always going to be a part of our Summit County market. And it does impact both your rental income that offsets your payments, but it also really affects resale value. So what we found is that regardless of your income, your purchase price goes up with your rental income. So if you have a 4-bedroom single family house, you can rent for a lot more, your purchase price goes up. If you have a 1-bedroom house, your purchase price goes down. So even with rental income, when you take away that rental income, that purchase price is affected even more. So there's a lot of variables that affect this, but we're hoping that this tool that we have shared with you will help all of you as you're looking through trying to get answers on rentability at different properties. So reach out with any questions. I'm Candace Day. Thanks for listening to Mountain Real Estate.